Kalau kita merayakan Natal, Mbak, kalau kami orang Kristen, ada satu pujian nyanyian di waktu Natal itu. Sunyi senyap malam kudus, bintangmu gemerlap. Itu nyanyikan pada malam hari, Mbak. Tapi kami tidak pernah menyanyikan selama hampir ini yang tahun kelima.
Takut, sedih, membongkar apa itu gereja itu. Kenapa nggak sedih, Bu? Nggak ada lagi bekas kami tempat kami beribadah.
Nah, waktu itu gereja kami masih utuh, ini pintu gerejanya, terus yang podiumnya di sana tempat bagi pengurus gereja. Ada bom molotov dilemparkan satu di dekat mobil itu, baru kan hidup, baru dilemparkan terus ke salib itu, hidup putus listrik, jaringan listrik gitu, masuklah orang itu keliling dari belakang, dari mana, para ormas datang dari simpang sana, jalan kaki semua, nah, baru dihalau sama polisi. Lalu polisinya nggak bisa menghadang mereka.
Umat Kristen katanya saya yang harusnya mengambil kebijakan tegas. Umat Islam juga seperti itu. Nah, saya mau pakai yang mana? Saya mau pakai yang Kristen atau yang Islam sekarang? Saya mau tegas, ikuti aturan saja. Kalau kalian semua cukupi berkasnya, itu yang benar. Di luar itu saya tidak punya kontak dan tidak punya semacam solusi.
Setiap saat kita umbarkan keadilan sosial bagi seluruh rakyat Indonesia, tapi khususnya bagi rakyat yang beragama Kristen di Aceh Singkil, itu nggak pernah ada.
A family of 6 bombers, including a child as young as 9, launched attacks at churches in Indonesia on Sunday. That's according to officials who say more than a dozen people have been killed and 40 wounded. Police blame the bombings on Jemaah Ansarut Daulah, an Islamic State-inspired group that has drawn in hundreds of IS sympathizers in Indonesia. Islamic State has also claimed responsibility, but not released any evidence. The attacks took place in Indonesia's second biggest city, Surabaya, early on Sunday, and targeted Christians attending services at 3 locations. Police told reporters that the husband in the family had driven a car containing explosives into the front gate of one church. The wife and 2 daughters, aged 12 and 9, were involved in the attack on a second church, they said. And at the third church, 2 sons, aged 18 and 16, quote, rode the motorbike and had a bomb across their laps. The family, police said, were among 500 Islamic State sympathizers who had returned from Syria. Indonesian President Joko Widodo called the attacks barbaric and said he had ordered police to break up the networks of the perpetrators. The world's largest Muslim-majority country has seen a recent resurgence in homegrown militancy, in part inspired by Islamic State. The attacks also come just days after militant Islamist prisoners killed 5 members of an elite counter-terrorism force during a 36-hour standoff at a high-security prison on the outskirts of the capital, Jakarta. A spokesman for Indonesia's intelligence agency said that incident was likely linked to Sunday's bombings.
At churches around Indonesia, military and police are screening worshippers before they enter. Good Friday is one of the most important days in the Christian calendar. This Holy Week, there's heightened security, with personnel at the gates and armoured vehicles standing by.
I feel that Indonesians live peacefully side by side. Our diversity is beautiful, but there are people who want to disturb the security.
On Sunday, in the eastern port city of Makassar, a married couple detonated a bomb near a cathedral, injuring 20 people.
It is not shocking anymore. Every time there is a Christmas celebration, Easter celebration, or pre-Ramadan preparation period, sadly to say, there are often attacks against Christian churches.
The bombers died in the attack. Since then, police have arrested suspected associates of the couple who were linked to an ISIL-affiliated network. In 2018, a family of 6 detonated explosives at several churches in the city of Surabaya, killing more than a dozen Christians. Security forces have cracked down on these violent networks in recent years and arrested a number of key individuals. While attacks are less frequent than they were in the early 2000s, experts say religious intolerance is still a security concern. De-radicalization experts say combating hatred against minorities is part of their work.
We have to give them a new understanding of religion, tell them to let go of their contradictory understanding and the beliefs which they use to justify their wrong actions.
Security experts say the landscape has changed and there are new challenges.
The recruitment is very fast. And using social media as one of its tools, so rather than purely collective action, no, it's a connective action.
Experts say the government should do more to protect minorities.
All citizens are equal, whether you are Sunni Muslim, Ahmadiyya Muslim, Shia Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, local believers, or whatever. So the government needs to make sure that everyone is treated equally in Indonesia.
Indonesia's president insists people should continue their religious activities without fear, but for some that is a difficult prospect. Jessica Washington, Al Jazeera, Jakarta.
Okay, so I have one question for you. What is your favorite Bible verse?
Bible verse?
Any Bible verse.
Any Bible verse? I think it should be on the First Thessalonians 3 verse 17, I think.
Oh, and you know the English name? Thessalonians.
Yes, I think it's, yeah, it's the same thing, right?
It's the same. It's the same in Indonesian, Thessalonians. I didn't know.
It's Thessalonica in Indonesia.
Thessalonica, Thessalonian.
Yeah.
What do you know what it says like in the Bible verse? Can you explain it?
I think it says like keep praying, so like continuously praying. So I think it's like, you know, in everything that we do, we need to continuously you know, reaching for God and yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, and I heard you sing. Was it you who were singing here, or was it someone else?
Oh yes.
Was it you?
Yes.
It was she sings so good. Like I was sitting up there and I heard her sing like in prayer, and I actually felt like the presence of God when you were singing. Really, I did.
Yeah.
Okay, but it was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so we're here with, what's your name?
Tita.
Hi. Okay, I have a question for you. Okay, what is your favorite Bible verse? Any Bible verse?
John.
John. Oh, do you know the number, the chapter, or?
John 3.
3. Okay. What is it about?
It's about because of love, God's love.
Oh, God's love for us. Yes. Oh, I love that. Yeah, in the book of John. Ah, nice. Okay, so we got her John.
John 3.
3. John 3. Good. High five. Thank you. I have a question for you. What is your favorite Bible verse?
Nggak tahu bahasa Inggris lagi. Kolose 3 ayat 23.
Oh.
Kolose 3 23. Verse 23.
Colossians 3 verse 23.
23.
What do you know what it says? What is the verse about?
Apapun juga yang kamu perbuatlah dengan segenap hatimu.
Whatsoever you do, work heartedly as unto the Lord, as not unto men. Whoa. I like this one. I like it. Oh, thank you for sharing. Can you?
God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you. Ta-da. Are you Hello. Hi. Do you mind if I ask you like a few questions?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So first one, what is your favorite Bible verse? Any Bible verse that you like? You can say in Indonesian too.
Tuhan Maha Besar. Tuhan Maha Besar. Allah Maha Besar.
Okay. Can you explain? Second question. Can you explain what the Bible verse is about?
The Bible is the very di mana orang-orang itu menyembah dan juga memuji nama Tuhan. Dia bersorak-sorai dan juga bersukacita di dalam Allah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to use him as translator to translate that for me. Can you just say like, hello South Africa in there?
Oh, you're from South Africa?
Yeah.
I think you're Russian.
Oh, you thought I was from Russia? Why?
Because your face.
Oh, my face? My face? Wow, that's a compliment because Russian people are very, very beautiful. Very beautiful. So
Russian people is very bright.
And bright. Yeah, they like white skin and yeah. But many people don't think that South Africa people are white. They think like only black or dark. Yeah, but I'm from South Africa. Yeah,
so
but
you're the unique one.
Yeah, I'm unique. Did you hear that? Okay, so we're gonna do fist bump to the camera. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Can I interview you?
Yes.
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 Yes! She said I can interview. Okay. What Christian song do you like?
Lagu gereja yang kamu suka apa? Kamu suka lagu gereja apa? Nyanyi.
Happy ya.
Nyanyi dong.
Happy ya. Saya senang jadi anak Tuhan. Siang jadi tenangan, malam jadi impian, cintaku semakin mendalam.
Wow, that is amazing. Can you do a heart ring? Yay! Amazing. That's so cute. Oh, Dadah. 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 Sampai jumpa lagi. Great, that's a wrap.
Every week in countries around the world, pastors preach at evangelistic meetings, but it isn't so easy if the country is Indonesia, with the largest Muslim population on earth. Egyptian-American pastor Michael Youssef spoke there recently, and some who heard him were threatened. But as John Wagi explains, that didn't keep hundreds from responding to the good news.
Indonesia is home to more than 200 million Muslims. That's nearly 13% of the global Muslim population. So when the preparations began for a visit to Jakarta by Atlanta pastor Dr. Michael Youssef, it wasn't an everyday happening.
What can profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul?
For 3 days, with music and prayer, Youssef brought a message of God's love to Indonesians. 15,000 people came, some facing persecution.
But the most amazing thing to me is the hundreds of people that responded to the gospel message by coming forward. Dangerous as it was for some of them, and yet they were fearless. The love of Christ captured so many of them that hundreds were coming in every one of those 3 nights.
Youssef says one pastor brought 300 people to the gathering, even though he was threatened with death.
And of course there was threats and by some extremists, and the man with joy of the Lord said, it doesn't matter, what can they do to me? And so night after night he would bring folks in to hear the gospel message, some of them for the first time.
Organizers say 1,000 people came to Christ during the meetings, and the hope is that millions more in the Muslim world will hear the good news on television and the internet.
They will bring glory to you.
42-year-old Wikwik grew up in Indonesia as a devout Muslim, but she never forgot her first real encounter with the power of Jesus Christ. That came when her Muslim parents took Wikwik and her brother to a Christian meeting to pray for healing. Wikwik's younger brother had been deaf since birth.
The man said, "Those who are sick, put your hands on the sick place." My brother was deaf and mute. My mother put her hand on my brother's ears, and my father put his hand on my brother's mouth. After the prayer, my brother turned to my parents and said, "Mother, father, sister." He was healed.
In spite of the miracle, Wikwik and her family continued in their Muslim faith. But for the next 30 years of her life, Wikwik wrestled inside with what she had witnessed. She wondered if being a more devout Muslim would help. In her search, Wikwik came across a Christian television program produced by CBN.
One night, when I came home from work, I found Solusi. I had this desire to call CBN to talk to someone about the Christian faith. I wanted them to guide me.
Wikwik says CBN's Solusi gave her hope, and she watched it regularly. She was sure she would never call for prayer, but she saved the number in her phone just in case.
I was hesitant to call Solusi, but I was praying to God. I wondered if this was a way out of my problems by calling Solusi.
Wikwik finally did call, and a CBN prayer counselor encouraged her and prayed with her to become a Christian. We then helped her to find a local church.
I feel like I have totally changed. Even my friends told me that I changed.
Wikwik still prays for her little brother and her parents, who are Muslim, and she encourages them to watch CBN Solusi whenever she can.
I would like to say thank you to CBN that they can air this program in Indonesia. Because of CBN Indonesia, I am new person today.
Ini Mbok Dayu. Ini Dewa Haji nih.
Kan Dewa Haji.
Ini Dewa Haji. Bapak ngabu firman Tuhan loh nih.
Ya, oh iya.
Bapak ngabu firman Tuhan jam meme. Bagaimana bisa kan Bapak menyampaikan, walaupun Bapak ditinggalkan, waktu Bapak percaya pertama pada Tuhan Yesus kan banyak teman-teman mulai meninggalkan, keluarga juga banyak di
masyarakat.
Nah, itu dah. Tapi kenapa Bapak tetap kuat?
Ya,
Kristus itu di waktu kapan?
Tantangan. Bapak tetap kuat. Memang dari secara inner, secara dari dalam batin itu ada semangat gitu. Tidak semangat dibuat-buat begitu, bergerak itu berkobar-kobar. Itu semangatnya berkobar-kobar dalam tekanan yang dari masyarakat dikucilkan, tapi semangat di dalam berkobar-kobar.
Menjadi Kristen di Bali itu tidaklah hal mudah. Jadi tidak termasuk dalam silsilah keluarga. Dan banyak hal berefek dari blacklist nama tersebut. Dari sana memang merasa saya menjadi minoritas. Dan sepertinya harapan ke depan sangat sulit. Situasi saat itu memang kita krisis.
Itu dah tahun 1997 karena kami memulai untuk perintisan buka PPA di Desa Munduk. Awalnya memang kita merekrut 8 sampai 10 anak termasuk Oka ya. Kemudian di sini kebanyakan masyarakat di sini orang tua daripada anak PPA itu memang dia istilahnya menyakap. Misalnya sekarang ditanami bunga misalnya ya. Makan mereka sampai memang terasa dan memang hal itu. Kemudian ada juga kalau dari segi pendidikan mereka memang sangat kesulitan ya.
Waktu saya dulu di PPA, waktu masih kecil, dan juga ya beras, minyak, itu kita dapatkan dari PPA. Dan juga membantu kami dalam biaya sekolah. Mungkin saja kalau tidak bisa membayar, saya bisa menjadi malu. Sehingga secara mental kita tidak perlu malu karena kita selalu bisa membayar. SMA, PPA tetap menyupport saya sampai selesai SMA untuk mencari universitas menjadi seorang desainer, sehingga saya memutuskan ke Denpasar. Setelah menyelesaikan TA dan skripsi saya kembali bekerja di tempat lain, yaitu di Q-Silver, dan sangat sebentar di sana saya mencari tempat lain, yaitu di Reef untuk footwear, produk surfing. Hari ke hari semakin jelas bahwa Tuhan memiliki misi bagi saya untuk desa ini, yaitu Desa Munduk. Harapan saya melakukan hal itu pastinya dari apa yang saya alami. Sehingga karena saya mendapatkan harapan dari PPA, saya ingin mengulang hal itu dengan lebih banyak lagi. Ya, sebelumnya saya kerja di Denpasar sebagai desain grafis. Tapi pada akhirnya saya memutuskan untuk pulang ke Munduk, membantu di PPA sebagai koordinator untuk membebaskan mereka dari kemiskinan. Kemiskinan bagi saya itu bukan kemiskinan uang, bukan kemiskinan ekonomi, tapi miskin dalam hal mental, miskin dalam hal kekuatan dia, saat tantangan ada, apakah dia kuat? Di sanalah arti sebuah kemiskinan. Harapan itu selalu ada bagi anak-anak, tetapi kadang menjadi pudar, seperti yang saya alami dahulu. Dan bagaimana caranya kita dapat memberikan harapan? Kita harus siap dengan apa yang kita miliki. Dengan dasar saya memiliki relasi di Denpasar untuk bisnis restoran dan juga perhotelan, dan juga dasar saya sebagai desainer, saya memberikan harapan bagi anak untuk mereka lebih cepat mendapatkan pekerjaan. Selain dari di gereja untuk melayani jemaat, juga melayani anak-anak PPA. Saat ini saya mulai merintis sebuah homestay, dan ini adalah sebuah cara bagi saya
begitu berdampak, dan memang Oka memiliki kontribusi yang luar biasa, baik pertama terhadap gereja ya, dia memberikan hatinya, hidupnya untuk Tuhan melalui pelayanan. Dia juga dipercayakan untuk sebagai ketua pemuda-pemudi di desa.
Bapak memiliki suatu prinsip atau suatu konsep hidup itu hidup bersama sebagai dengan peguyuban. Hidup peguyuban. Hidup berkemanusiaan sesama manusia itu dengan ikatan batin. Saling berbagi, berbeban, ada rasa empati. Ini luar biasa. Ini powernya. Strategi kami dalam pengembangan Kristen, ini powernya. Prinsip ini kalau diteruskan oleh generasi muda, ini gereja akan berkembang.
Salam. Saya pertama kenal Radio Heartland tuh dari suami saya. Awalnya suami saya suka ngumpulin anak-anak itu, kemudian dia suka dengerin radio, dan saat itu juga saya marah soalnya saya Muslim. Ngapain orang Muslim dengerin Radio Heartland, ada Yesus segala gitu kan. Lama-lama dia telepon pendeta yang datang, saya marah juga itu. Lo bingung, pendeta disuruh datang ke rumah, saya gituin. Soalnya kan waktu itu saya masih Muslim. Waktu Pak Epi datang, saya cuek. Beberapa kali Pak Epi datang, Pak Epi tanya tentang ibu, keselamatan ibu. Yang menyelamatkan ibu siapa? Waktu itu saya jawab, amal saya, perbuatan baik saya, sholat saya, dan ibadah saya, kata Pak Epi. Bukan ibu, katanya. Yang menyelamatkan ibu adalah percaya sama Tuhan Yesus, bukan usaha manusia, tapi keselamatan itu adalah anugerah dari Tuhan Yesus itu. Dari situ saya mulai tertarik tentang pelajaran Kristus. Dengan doa-doa itu, saya ikut retret itu, rohani saya dipulihkan, dan sejak itu saya ikut Kristus. Karena saya mendapatkan kedamaian yang luar biasa yang belum pernah saya dapatkan dari sebelumnya itu. Dan waktu itu juga saya mau dibaptis. Puji Tuhan, mempelajari lebih dalam tentang Alkitab, Kristus siapa. Pas dengan pergumulan saya gitu, saya dengerin sentuhan hati, pas gitu dengan pergumulan saya gitu. Jadi beban agak lepas gitu. Juga saya belajar doa-doanya dari situ, soalnya saya dulu kan doa itu Al-Quran saya nggak ngerti. Terus ini ya hampir tiap hari itu saya dengerin radio itu. Saya sendiri sih pengen bisa ini jadi murid Tuhan Yesus yang sejati. Apapun pergumulan itu biar saya kuat gitu.